Hello, how are you doing? This is elinayxlin and I am back coming strong with a new mic. Thanks for the feedback. The new mic has come and I'm very happy about it. So today we are at a new area here. We are right across from the academy and the museum, and we have this barren wasteland of a place. Well, it's not going to be a wasteland soon, but it's going to be something close to a wasteland. Could you guess what it is? I'm just going to give you a few seconds. It's a ghost town. It's going to be a ghost town. I'm super excited for it. I love building ruins in Minecraft, so I'm very excited for what this journey will bring me. But first, this mountain will have to go, and then we can start to design. We're also nice and close to a cherry grove, which is a nice bonus. We have a great view down here. We even have a cherry tree close to us, which is strange. We might have to chop it down soon. But we have the beacon set up, so we are ready to remove the mountain. And I will see you all when the mountain is gone. Now, hopping into time lapse where I try to remove this mountain, I don't exactly need the whole thing gone, but I want it to be a relatively reasonably smooth patch of land so I can actually build buildings on top of it without having much disturbance. Of course, the roads can curve upwards. This is amplified. Here's the thing. Amplified means big terrain, but amplified, another bonus of amplified also means that I usually don't have to create my own terrain because the current terrain is reasonably cool. In fact, I might make a commentary video about how amplified compares to normal Minecraft and why you should try playing amplified at least once during your Minecraft journey. But that's a video for another day. So now I'm just gonna add some music and let's watch the removal of the mountain. But one more thing, right before I hop into the music, if you're curious how I source my music, it's either from my own compositions. In fact, fun fact, I'm actually a part-time music producer, so there are some things from there. Yeah, I was a music producer. I'm not anymore. I'm a Minecraft content creator right now, but I do have a big stock of some of the music. And the other thing is iMovie has a lot of built-in music, and since it comes with iMovie, I'm just assuming it's appropriate to use these songs. Okay, it seems like I've yapped too much and there isn't much time for music, but we might as well play something really short and have a good time. The next part of this project is to create some roads to line up the area, because it won't be a complete area unless we have some roads. Otherwise, we can't explain how do people get around here. So you would see me using tuft. In fact, as an editor's note, I might as well as have used some cobblestone to texture the tuft, but I forgot to do that apparently. So let's just please bear with me. It's functional. It will be pretty easy to replace with cobblestone in the future. Doing some more light terraforming to just get rid of the little bumps here and there so that it'll be easy for us to do the road, getting rid of the ice because spawn proofing means torches and torches means melted ice and melted ice means we got a big mess to clean up. So the ice sadly has to go, but don't worry, I silk touch off the ice so we can save it for another day. Now we are snaking the road up this mountain here, and this will be a really convenient way to elytra us into the academy. I'm not sure about the other way around. I might have to make an exception to my no elytra in the urban areas rule for here because this area is so freaking remote. In fact, it's almost an area that's forgotten by time because it's so remote and it's so inconvenient to get to everywhere. And as I've mentioned in What on Earth Happened in Lithos episode, I forgot, is it 1 or is it 2? Probably 2. Lithium people freaking love gardens, and it doesn't seem quite feasible to make a garden up here in the frozen peaks. And this is one of the reasons why the wealthy people have abandoned this area. The general idea about this area is I want to make buildings that are looking a bit more primitive than their lower Lithos CBD counterpart because they are from an older time, a time gone by, so that is what I'm planning for. And now, more music. Snapping out of the time lapse and the music, it's time to get planning. So this is an urban planning session where I am going to lay out the building foundations with respect to roads. I might add a few roads here and there if I feel like the need to do so, like I'm doing here. And the essence of this step is to make sure that I have a functional city. Stuff that I am planning to add include but are not limited to a school, a city hall, and a big manor, a ore processing area because we see this natural cave that generated in the middle, so we want to utilize that into a mine. There's a handful more stuff. There's a little castle. Just trying to remember off the top of my head since I am adding my voiceover post content creation. So there's quite a handful of things, and that would make it really fun. Speaking of different things and the purpose of buildings, this is a reminder for myself that I should do a few episodes where I try to make interiors of buildings. I'm really not sure how the filming works out for these because it will be so claustrophobic to film, but remind me, I need to do some episodes where I just build interiors because I have so many dope exteriors but not many dope interiors. Also, if you're curious, since it's snowing, why snow does not accumulate, it's because I have very limited sanity. Here's the thing. I created a lot of artificial gardens in the grove at lower lithos, and I just cannot stand them being snowed on. Previously, before updating to 1.2 to 1.4, my solution was to string dupe and use an abominable amount of string. However, after upgrading, the string duper is defunct, so I can't do that anymore. So I, at a snap of my sanity, decided to turn snow accumulation off completely. That is the story, and now it's time for more music. Now in the next part, I will be participating in an active non-time-lapse way of doing this, because here's the thing. Building planning takes a lot of effort, and I want to show you this entire process because my imagination is that a lot of you are curious about how I plan buildings. This part would be especially focused on the idea that every building deserves a almost unique decorated window style, because if you follow this channel long enough, one of the very special things about this channel is I love decorating windows, period. Like a lot of decoration. In other words, it's called a stair wall spam, where I just spam stairs and walls to make some dope patterns. So it'd be nice if we could do this together. I am creating differently sized stair wall panels. Some of them, and it's usually like n by n+1. In other words, it's like 3 wide 4 tall, 4 wide 5 tall, or 5 wide 6 tall. That's the 3 of my favorites. So we can see how this goes. I'm actually recording in 1x speed here because I usually use 8x speed for my time lapses, but this is just me in real time because I feel like this is one of the more meaningful steps of this design, because the rest of it is just implementing the weathering and the decaying, and rinsing and repeating what I designed in this step. So see here, we are transferring to another building, and we can design it for another building. I have also been mindful to make every building have a usually different foundation block, and that just means that the base of the building looks different. Sometimes I'm going with cracked diorite bricks, and I'm just trying to come to the museum to take some inspiration from the different window variations and end up not liking a lot of them and forcing myself to design a lot more impromptu. But there's a few that I think I like, so I'm just gonna implement these directly onto the ghost town. And of course, I'm gonna be a bit cheeky here because I'm just gonna take screenshots of the arches, the designs I like, and just build it with reference to a screenshot. So don't be alarmed if you see me scrolling back and forth between my screenshot and my Minecraft interface. So now cue the music and let us look at what happens next. And now it's finally time that we have planned all of these decorated windows up. So it is now time to actually start building the first ruin. So we're super excited for this, and we start by adding the framework just like I do. And if you're bored, look at the distant horizon scenery because that is low-key fire. I think I turned it to 128 chunks. That is why it looks so distant, shall I say. So here I am building away at AX speed. So let me put some more music on so we can enjoy the process together, shall we? And just like that, our hourly long episode is coming to an end. So as I build up the final touches for the buildings of this episode, I will say that I really look forward to seeing you all on the next one. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you all again. This episode was really productive. We got at least 3. I'm confused right now because I'm working on 2 episodes at once, but at least 3 buildings done, and now these buildings really have character, and I am really proud of them. In fact, I would say that this is one of my favorite regions to hang out in. So, see you in the next one.